Welcome to my parlor. Welcome, traveler, to the Hidden Corner Finds. I am Joanne, and this is my humble store. Pull up a chair, stay a while, make yourself at home. What? Oh, you want to know what I'm selling? Everything and anything. In short, I have a passion for Ugh, why did it just bleep me? All I said was I have a passion for picking, I said. Yeesh. You can't say anything on YouTube these days without this censorship. Anyways, as I was saying, I have a passion for picking. For me, there is nothing more satisfying than finding a unique and forgotten item and uniting it with someone who will really appreciate it for years to come. Whether it's a soapstone carving, an old book, or simply a mug to make you laugh, I try and find something for everyone. My goal is to make you a confident buyer. Older items often have a lifetime of stories to tell. I strive to describe the good as well as the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. It's important that the pictures reflect what you will receive. To that end, I always encourage questions and will do my best to respond as quick as possible. Appreciate you stopping by the store. If you can't find what you're looking for, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always looking for new ideas and will keep an eye out for your item in my travels.
God damn it! Honey, what the f happened to my action figure collection?
Whoops, gotta go. Bye.
And welcome back to Figurine Friday with Johnny Tiger. This is the Missing Toy Thursday. At the end of this week's Wisdom Wednesday, I left you guys a little message about don't miss the Toy Thursday because it's going to be good, and it's going to be good. But I got way too busy yesterday and never finished this video, so we are making it up today, and it will be just as good. As some of you that can look at the screen, you would already know we're looking at a very impressive action figure of the Lich King Arthas from World of Warcraft. He's not exactly the figure we are going to review today, but it's totally relevant. Totally relevant. But first, today's date is March 28, 2025. Now, this Lich King Arthas was made by the short running uh, Heroes of the Storm line by NECA. Uh, Good 6 or 7, maybe longer, more years ago. Uh, and I was honestly so sad when that line didn't do well. Like they only had 3 series of figures. I missed out on, I believe, 3 figures from that entire series. Uh, I was so sad when that series ended because there were so many good figures from Hero of the Storms and Warcraft and all that stuff that they could have done and they would have done. Uh, but yeah, at least we got 2 of my most coveted figures and characters out of that. One was the Illidan from World of Warcraft, and the other one was Arthas from World of Warcraft. Now, let me quickly say this: I am not a die-hard fan of World of Warcraft, which is strange because I love all the over-the-top warriors and semi-naked females, like swords and naked flesh and big heavy armor and monsters. That's like totally up my alley, right? So why is it that I am not more into World of Warcraft than I already am? Well, I think it comes down to jealousy. You see, back when in the 90s, when everyone was into playing World of Warcraft and people were always talking about World of Warcraft, uh, I felt left out because World of Warcraft as a game was not accessible to blind people. So all I could do was watch people play it and listen to people talk about it and all these cool characters and yada yada yada. And I was unable to take part in it. And that, especially being a teenager, that festered a kind of a resentment in my head that I just not like resented World of Warcraft and everything it stood for, unprincipled. You know, it was popular, it was awesome, it was cool, it was everything I should have liked, but I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't take part in it. So that that turned into a kind of weird resentment that stayed with me for many, many years until I could finally sort of dabbled in the stories of World of Warcraft by reading books about it, listening to audiobooks, and there's a couple of audio dramas about it. I believe there was one movie, 2006. Let's not talk about the movie. It was kind of bad. I mean, okay, no, honestly, I didn't find it too awful because remember, I never played the game. I couldn't play the games. So that was my first exposure to the characters on screen. So to me that was not horrible. But I understand to people who played the game that movie wasn't very good. Um anyhow, so it wasn't until then that I started to read and watch movies and listening to audio play of World of Warcraft that I slowly piece together my love for this uh, huge property, huge game, book, novels, whatever you got. And even though my understanding of the characters is still very limited, my understanding of what actually happened, can anyone actually tell me what happened in World of Warcraft? Like, you know, beginning to end. Like I understand there was like a invasion, and then good guys turned bad guys, and then demon went out, and the orcs invasion, and then some like there's undead, which is where the Lich King Arthas come in. And Arthas has been my favorite character from World of Warcraft for several reasons. I mean, one is he's just badass, like an undead warlord uh, with a magical sword and serious looking armor. Uh, yeah, like this guy just looks incredible, right? Uh, but more so, why he's always been my favorite character is that I have always gravitated toward uh, good guys that, due to certain tragedies, end up turning bad. I mean, a lot of people like tragic heroes, right? People like, heroes that go through tragedies and stuff like that. But a lot of people like villains that turn into heroes in the end. Me, on the other hand, I have always gravitated toward good guy that start out really good, and then because of something that happened to them, they turn bad and become like the main villain of the story. Like, to me, that's cool. To me, that's much better than, oh, I'm a bad guy. I want to take over the world just because I can. I feel that when you find out that this villain used to be the champion of good guys, the hero of all heroes, and you kind of go, "Whoa, what happened there? There must be a real sad story there." And yeah, so Arthas was one of those guys. He started out as the champion for the good guys, and he was a paladin, I believe, and a knight, very virtuous knight, one of the best fighter. And he went to the wasteland to try to defeat evil and try to restore the world, and somehow got corrupted by the power of the Lich King's crown, I believe, and the sword, and became a bad guy. I mean, that's kind of like Siegfried in Soul Edge or Soul Calibur game. That's why I always say Siegfried is my favorite character in Soul Calibur because it's the same thing. He started out as a good guy and then he finally reached the end and he got corrupted and turned into the big bad, like this demonic character. Uh, I just really dig that kind of storyline. Uh, so Arthas is here from NECA. We definitely need to do a proper episode just looking at him one day. But today we're going to look at something a little bit different, right? Uh, I have been hearing about this Chinese company called Mithril Action for the past year or so. Mithril Action is it's kind of a expensive Chinese action figure making company. Like their figures hover around the $100 mark, and so far, like prior to this time, they have been making orcs and making big, burly, hulking orcs uh, in different armor, different configuration. Now, I keep hearing people talk about how great their figures are, and so far, I have resisted until this point to pick any of their stuff up. Reason being, I'm not really big into orcs, right? Like I don't like entire race of people that their main attribute is we don't bathe, we don't brush our teeth, we don't dress properly. We are just going. We're big and ugly and muscular, and we go forward and crush everybody in our path. That might be fun to start with, but after a while, it just gets really dull. And orcs just never really call out to me as a kind of like a character type that is all that likable. Um, Another reason why I have resisted getting these orcs is they're like 8 inches tall. They're huge. And while normally I love big figures, I have a lot of orcs from Mythic Legions, Lord of the Rings, other properties that are 6 inches tall, 7 inches tall. So these orcs would come in and make all the other orcs look really wimpy, really small, and that's going to kind of mess up my display. Uh, so decided, well, I guess I'm going to save 300 or 400 bucks because I'm not getting these orcs. Well, then they got me. Last year, they announced that they were coming up with this undead elf warrior called Morna. And okay, to be fair, I didn't know what she would look like. Right? This is the fun thing about being blind is you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. Um, but I did grab her photos off the 5K Toys website and plug them into AI and ask AI to describe her to me. And AI basically said, serious looking warrior woman with spiky heavy armor, exposed flesh, and really big sword. Yeah, that's basically it. That's all I needed. I didn't need to know who Mona is supposed to be. I didn't need to know what she was supposed to be. Uh, Woman in armor with exposed flesh and big sword. That's enough. That was enough to get me to say, okay, I think I want her. So I pre-ordered, and then as I was waiting for the pre-order, I started seeing people review on YouTube and people talking about her on the internet. And honestly, I almost went ahead and canceled my pre-order, right? Because people were saying, "Oh, this is just a knockoff female, like it's like a transgender uh, Lich King Arthas. This is like a female. Like they just turned Arthas into female." And because I love the character Arthas so much, I was offended. I was like, I don't want a transgender Arthas on my shelf. Like, I don't, I don't want to spend $100 and get like just a Arthas, turned into like Arthas with boobies, essentially. But then I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to let the pre-order come through because this company have garnered a lot of good reviews. And finally, there's a figure they make that I might really like. So I'm going to ignore all the noises in the background. I'm going to let it come through and make up my own mind about it. So, is Morna a good figure? Is she worthwhile having? Or is she, like some people say, just a knockoff female Arthas? Stay with me and we'll find out together. Box this figure comes in is a simple affair with no biographical text. There's some artwork and a little bit of text and Chinese language on it. Inside the box, there's a nice looking backdrop you can use for your display. And a whole lot of stuff. I mean, this is an $80 to $100 figure, so it should come with a lot of stuff. And she does. The figure itself is over 7 inches tall, and she comes with totally removable armor, extra fabric undergarments for her modesty, a really big sword, and 3 heads and 20 hands. I'm not even kidding. She comes with 20 hands. Uh, Replacement shoulder cuffs for when she's naked, and she comes with some tools so you can adjust the eyes in one of those heads that she comes with. So yeah, for that price, you are getting a lot of stuff. So let's get this out of the way. Is she an Arsa's female counterpart knockoff? Because I mean, there's no official character from World of Warcraft called Morna. This is a character that basically Mithril Action made up so they could make something that looked like this. So is she just a female Arsa? Well, not really. I mean, you know, just the armor itself is drastically different. Maybe the helmet is very similar, but even the shape of the sword is not the same. Uh, like if we grab this Arthur figure and we look at the sword here, I believe his sword is called Frostmourne or is it Frostbrand? I can't remember. You guys can leave it in the comment section. Okay, that is a very streamlined sword with like a single point. Yeah, it have kind of jagged edge on the side, but oops, that's clearly not the same as this. Okay, what Mona is holding in her hand, you can say yeah, it's like kind of similar design, but I think that's like very different. Why won't you stay standing? She normally stands really well, but because the light base I have her on, is a little bit slippery, and I got her in such a dynamic pose. Yeah, there we go. Um, yeah, I think if you prefer to think of her as just a female Arthas, I can see why, because there is a lot of design similarity, but I think if you stand them side by side, if these two walk onto the screen together, it's convincing enough that uh, that two different characters. Just like there's enough there that is different. Maybe like if you tell me maybe this is another Lich King or Lich Queen in this case, maybe prior to Arthas or after Arthas, maybe once upon a time, there was a female character who became the Lich Queen and possessed Arthas' crown and sword, and she would look like this. Then yes, that I can see because definitely got the similarity there in the helmet and the sword. But otherwise, it's not. It's not just like a female Arthas, in my opinion. And let's just get this straight too. For me, any action figure that can pull this pose, uh, is a good action figure. I mean, this pose we got here. with her leaning to the side and the sword above her head in two-handed grip, and her armor's not like out of place and her armor don't look awkward, and she's in a deep squat. Like this is McFarlane, early 90s, like mid 90s McFarlane uh, style posing, right? Like if you look at McFarlane's uh, especially McFarlane's angelic warriors in the 90s, those are almost plastic statue warriors. Like this is a kind of really dynamic pose that they could pull off. And McFarlane's uh, excuse for making statues rather than action figures was, oh, in statues you can get them to do this pose. You know, it's poses like this, they look awesome. Well, action figures you can't get them to pose this way. And he's not exactly wrong because just look around you on your shelf. Unless you are used to collecting high-end Storm collectibles, Mithril Action, or a lot some of these Chinese companies, or some of the maybe the Mesco figure art stuff. Most likely, if you collect Mattel, NECA, even sorry to say, Four Horsemen, because I love Four Horsemen, but uh, even if you do Savage Crucible, right? Most characters can't pull off a pose like this. Most of them just don't have the articulation to pull off a pose like this. Most of them can't even do two-handed grip on their sword. So for an action figure to be able to pull off this like statue level pose, it's amazing. Okay, and I have heard many people say that uh, Mithril Action is like almost like Storm collectible in construction, and it is true. Like if you sent me this action figure without telling me what this was, and I opened the box without uh, using my phone to read what's on the box, I would totally say, "Oh wow, Storm collectible! I didn't know they make this." The articulation, the texture of the armor, the details to paint, the amount of hands and head it comes with. I mean, this chick comes with 20 hands. That's more than you get even from Storm Collectible. So she comes with 20 hands, 3 heads. Okay, another thing that she does better than Storm Collectible, one of her head you can even adjust the eyeball to get different look out of the eyes. Yeah, how cool is that, right? So she got 3 heads, one with adjustable eyeball, 20 hands, a huge ass sword, and they even thought about in case you want yourself a customizable elven lady, you can take off all of her armor. I'm not going to do it on screen because I don't want to get censored and all that stuff. But I did do a few photos, so you guys can go back and look at the Photoshop. Uh, but yeah, all this armor, all this, the skirt, the chest plate, shoulder guard, arm, leg, all this, they'll all come off, right? And what really impressed me was the way they made the shoulder armor is when you pull this off, see how it leaves kind of a knob on her shoulder that is ugly looking. So they actually give you two replacement shoulder pieces. So when you take her apart and replace stuff and take things off, you can put those on and those will be totally smooth. She won't have the knobs on her shoulder for the shoulder armor. So that's like really good thinking, really good forward thinking. Uh, yeah, I, I, I I'm like very, very impressed. And this is such a pleasant surprise for me because, like I said, I was fully prepared to not like this figure. I was fully prepared to be disappointed and be disgusted that it's just going to be like a transgender Arthas or something. Uh, but she turning out really, really good. And uh, I'm going to show you guys some photos coming up, and we'll look at a few more poses you can get her into, and and stuff like that, and what she looked like without her armor. Uh, I really didn't want to do that part, but for the sake of the video, I did strip her down and took a few photos. So yeah, enjoy. At first, I was kind of annoyed with the removable armor, and I said to myself I would never remove them because, I'm buying a Death Knight warrior. I don't need her to be naked. But for the sake of this video, I went ahead and removed the armor for a couple of the photos so you guys can see what's underneath. Hopefully, I don't get this video deleted by YouTube. But anyway, she handles just like any high-end Storm collectible figures. Like these Mithril Action figures really feel like Storm collectibles figures with a soft upper body, soft armor materials, buttery smooth joints. Yeah, they are really high-end and totally hand candy. Obviously, with her armor on, she can't move as well, but she can still move well enough to pull off some really badass two-handed sword poses. Even pulling her apart was mostly a breeze, with the exception of getting her head and feet changed. Those require a lot of heating up and a lot of struggle, but otherwise, most of her armor came off very easily. Now, if you enjoy looking at Morna and what else she can do, my fellow collector Stitchen Hoplite, a shout out, um, he did a review on her, a really well done review, and so you guys can see more professional posting and photos over there. Um, but during the review, I remember that Stitchen Hoplite mentioned that the strength of the this figure is her presence on the shelf, and that is totally legit, totally valid. Because uh, honestly, I have a lot of action figures. I have a lot of female action figures, uh, warrior women throughout the ages, swords, spears, and hammers, all kind of warrior women in armor, in dresses, and almost next to nothing. But if I put Mona on the shelf right now, she would dominate uh, pretty much every other female action figure by sheer presence alone. I mean, she's over 7 inches tall. She's pretty well built. She got this serious looking spiky armor and this huge sword. Like, if I was to name some of my most badass looking female characters on my shelf, she definitely would rank among the top five, if not maybe even the top three. I'm hesitant to say she's the most badass looking, but she might be. I just, you know, I think there might be a couple of them that can give her a run for her money, but just her sheer presence alone, um, she gave me that kind of vibe of this lady walk onto. I mean, she's not a lady; she's basically an undead elf, uh, but she's giving me the vibe that she's going to walk onto the battlefield and warriors left, right, and center going to die. Like she's going to walk onto the battlefield and heads going to roll. Like she give out that kind of very savage, very uh, overpowering vibe that she's just going to dominate the battlefield all on her own. Um, yeah, um, like I would say, on sheer presence alone, she can rival a lot of the bigger, more powerful looking male warriors. No problem whatsoever. I mean, let's quickly bring Arthas, the Lich King, into well, Hold on, give me a second. Something just fell off the table. Bit of an accident here. Okay, yeah. So as I was saying, we have Arsas posing right beside Morna, and I mean Arsas is one of the more badass male characters already. Not even counting his powers from the storyline. Like if you count his the kind of ability he has from the how like his character in the story, he's very powerful. Like one of the most powerful beings. But if we just look at designs alone, right, with these two next to each other, can you say for sure that he's going to kick her ass? I can't. I mean, like if you tell me that after a long, grueling battle, she manages to kill him, I totally would believe that. So this is like the kind of sheer presence this Mona action figure has. Now, she is not by any stretch of the imagination 100% perfect. uh, there's a couple of issues with her, like one of which is she can be a bit of a frustrating figure to stand because her feet are really small and narrow. Like I don't understand this high heel thing. Like why would you have a serious warrior person wear like uh heels? Like let me grab her. I have to reach way across. But look, that this is that kind of like platform shoes, right? Like a medieval platform shoes. What kind of nonsense is that? Like I think that is one thing that I have issue with is the design of her shoe, right? If you want to do warrior women, especially one as dangerous looking as this one, then give them proper heavy ass stomping boots, right? I don't mind. I don't need her boots to be sexy. So that is one of my gripes with this figure. Really nitpicking because she is a really good figure. I have to pick on her shoes. Another issue that Stitch and Hoplite actually, I think, talked about this. Changing her head and changing her feet. Okay, to be blunt, it's a bitch. Okay, like even after heating up her head, it took so much effort and cussing for me to get this second head on there. And mostly, and I've had this same issue with Storm Collectibles figure too. The soft upper body construction is evil when you start to take the figure apart. Because what actually happening is there's a rubber overlay that creates the outer skin. And inside that is a small armature that you attach the arms and head to. So while that makes it really easy to articulate these figures, when you are trying to put things on, take things off, put things on, take things off, to quote Todd McFarlane, take it on, take it off, take it on, take it off, take it on, take it off. Sorry, I have to throw that in there because when he was talking about the medieval spawn Kickstarter, that's what he was doing. Take it on, take it off, take it on, take it off, take it on, take it off, take it on, take it off. Like what the hell? But anyway, um, this body construction means whenever you are trying to take the arm off or take the head off and then put new things on, that little attachment thing inside is shifting all over the goddamn place. And then if it's if they go in easy, that would be fine. But in this case, it takes so much pressure to push her head onto the peg, and with that little piece of attachment point moving around every time you apply pressure, oh, I was ready to throw her across the room, honestly. And her feet, that was very difficult too. Like I had to warm the hell out of her feet to be able to get the new feet on her when I was getting her naked. That didn't sound very good. Anyway, so those are luckily the only two real problem I can think of with this figure. Uh, is she worth the almost $100 price tag? I think if some places sell her for $80, $89, I say yes. I say for the sheer presence she adds to the shelf, for she being a totally original sculpt and a pretty large figure, and come with so many extras. I think the 89 to $100 price tag is totally fair. Now, I would, if I pay over that, like if I pay 120, then I probably would say, nah, she's not worth it. But I think $100 is totally fair for this figure and what she has and uh, what she's made of. And I'm happy to say that she took my virginity as far as Mithril Action concerned, and I couldn't have been happier. I definitely now I am a firm believer that Mithril Action does really good work. Now let's look at some final size comparison, cool photos, and get my final words. Thank you for checking out this episode. I really look forward to doing this. I hope you guys have fun. When I first heard that Mithril Action was making like a knockoff, gender-changed version of ourselves, I was a little offended and a lot less enthusiastic. But after handling her during these photos and messing around with her for the past couple of days, I will say this is a totally badass character and action figure. She doesn't need backgrounds or stories. She's a well-built lady with serious-looking armor and a big freaking sword. Just on her look alone, she's probably among the top 5 most badass-looking female characters on my shelf.